Hey everybody, Greg Pruitt here with the Idaho Dispatch, and we are continuing on our efforts to interview as many statewide candidates as we can who are looking forward to the primary on May 17th. And today I am joined by Mr. Steve Bradshaw. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate you taking time. We know the campaign trail can be extremely busy, and so we just want to sit down and talk to you today about your run for governor, and hopefully, you can get your message out to the citizens of Idaho, and we'll go from there. So, the first question I always ask everyone is, how you're running for governor, and how do you come to that mentality? I guess is what a lot of people want to know from the people running. Is you just woke up one day and you're like, I'm going to run for governor, or was it a series of events that maybe took place that wanted you to do that?
It was definitely a series of events for me. Next month, 3 years ago, I was in ICU at Kootenai Medical, and 8 doctors told me that I had less than 5% chance of leaving that building. And I told them, I know I'm leaving the building, I just don't know if I'm going to use that front door or the refrigerated section. But I knew I was leaving. And that night, laying there in ICU, started talking to God and said, if this is how I'm going, I'm good with that. I've had a heck of a ride, and but if you've got something else for me to do, here am I. And as a 21-year pastor, I knew the risk of saying that, because if you make yourself available to him, he will open a door and kick you through it. So that was the groundwork. Year went by, didn't really hear much, and thought, well, maybe I'm off the hook. And then CARES Act money came to Idaho, 1.4 billion and some change, with the instructions to the state to divide it amongst 44 counties according to populace. And when it came to the counties, I'm also a county commissioner on my second term, it was 289 million got divided amongst the 44 counties according to populace. And the instructions were to give a rebate on property taxes from the previous year and broadband expansion. And I thought that was kind of a far stretch for COVID related. And so I took it to our civil attorney, and I said, why does this stink? He said, because it's not legal. That's why it stinks. And so he called an executive session with our prosecutor, deputy prosecutor himself, our treasurer, the other 2 commissioners, and a law firm that we use for all federal stuff. They specialize in FEMA, emergency management, FAA, all federal stuff, treasury rules. And so our treasurer brought forth several state statutes that block any avenue from you ever getting $1 back on your property tax from the previous year. If it was an accurate and true assessment, you had the property that year, there's no recourse to ever recoup that. And so that was several state laws we'd be violating. And then when the attorney that specializes in federal stuff, he started going through the list of federal laws that we would be violating. And I immediately thought, okay, Treasury Department doesn't have any misdemeanors, so I think we're talking felonies here. And there was about 12 or 13 of them. And at the end of it, he said, at the end of the day, you 3 commissioners have the authority to follow the governor's instructions or not follow the governor's instructions. It's your call. As your attorney, I'm telling you, if you follow his instructions, you 3 gentlemen will spend a lengthy term in a federal penitentiary, and Mr. Little will be held free and harmless. And so we had him draft up a lawsuit, which you can see on my website. It'll say lawsuit against Brad Little. And we filed a lawsuit against Brad Little in person in his capacity as governor, so that Idaho taxpayer dollars would not be spent to defend him. He'd have to pay for it himself. Wasden decided to defend him pro bono. shortly into it, they pretty much figured out that we can't defend this. We have, in fact, asked them to violate the law. So they backed off on their instructions, and the lawyers worked it out. And as far as I know, he footed the bill. For me, that was a major problem, that your governor would ask every commissioner in the state to violate federal law and state law. Shortly after that, he tried to roll us back into stage 2. And as county commissioner, we told him, no, I don't think so. Bonner County's open for business. We don't have any non-essential people in our county. Everybody has the right to work. They have the right to go to their businesses, be unharassed. Government has no authority to tell them to wear a mask or not to wear a mask. That is strictly their choice. And the county doesn't have the authority to tell them to do otherwise. And so, once again, we were pushed to step outside our legal bounds, and we refused to do so. My third month in office on the first term, 3 years ago, I made Bonner County a Second Amendment sanctuary county. Drafted the resolution, it passed unanimously. Last year, passed one making it a constitutional sanctuary county. As commissioner, we were able to keep the taxes flat 3 years running. Did that by good management, cut foolish spending, and just being more efficient. Before there was no accountability on the department heads. They didn't have quarterly updates, monthly updates on their budget, and so the first year we set up every 30 days department head meeting, where you at on your budget. Then we went to quarterly and have got them all in line with their budgets, where, hey guys, this actually makes sense. It's much easier this way. We can see where we're at and we don't go over on our budget. And so we were able to do that. This year, not going to be that lucky because of the inflation rate. They say it's 8. In real life, it's going to be like 14 to 18%. Legislation has hamstrung your commissioners on their budget. They've taken the health districts, where the health districts traditionally were funded by federal money, state dollars, and county dollars. The state decided they weren't going to pay their part anymore. So in our county, that added about 60% to what we were already paying the health district. So for Bonner County, we're a population of just under 50,000. That's a little over $1 million a year that we're picking up. And so, and then some of the other state county related issues, they hamstrung us and cut us some more. So budget, it's going to become real challenging, because every time the state acts out, it costs the counties money. Brad Little in Jim County at the Lincoln event there came forth and said, I've just finished up what is going to be the greatest tax break bill in the history of Idaho. And when it came my time to speak as a candidate, I spoke about me and my experience, and at the end I said, you just heard greatest tax break in the history of Idaho. And if it is, I'll applaud him and tell him job well done. But if it's like the ones we've seen for the last 50 years, where it's a tax shift, then that's exactly what I'll call it. And so as the parts of his tax bill started rolling out, it became very obvious that this is not a tax break. This is a tax shaft. Much bigger shift, because now it's going to cost you money. He's telling you you're going to get a break. And everywhere I've went, I've spoke about it, and I ask them, you've heard tax break for 50 years. Who in here has ever seen it on their tax bill? Raise your hand. And never a single hand comes up. That's because it's always a tax shift. The only way you're going to see a tax break is a cut in spending. Because if you don't change your budget spending, then you still have to collect the same amount of money. You just change the pocket you're taking it out of. But unless you cut spending, you're not going to cut taxes. It's simple as that. And one of the things he put out there is they're only going to put a 2% increase on sales tax. Well, that's another math problem, just like the CARES Act money was $1.4 billion, but only $289 million got sent out. I asked a question in the executive session. There's a problem with the math. Somebody want to tell me where that $1,111 million went? And I've shared that at almost every Lincoln Day event in front of him, in front of the Speaker of the House, the Lieutenant Governor, legislators. Where'd that $1 billion go? I'm sure it went somewhere. There's at least one person on planet Earth knows where that $1 billion went. It didn't just fall off the table and end up under the printer machine or something. That $1 billion is somewhere. So with the sales tax increase, and he's saying it's 2%, there's a math problem there, because if I'm charging you 6 cents and now I'm going up to 8 cents, that's not a 2% increase, that's a 33% increase. So not only is your grocery tax not going to go away, it's going to jump 33%, along with everything else statewide. Now, the grocery tax, three elements that are absolutely necessary to survive on planet Earth is air, water, and food. And the government, the fact that they would tax any one of those three is repulsive to me. I don't think they have the right. I don't see the necessity in it. Amazon moved here 3 years ago. Everything that they sell online that is in state is subject to sales tax. They started a special fund for that so that they could track it and see what it was going to produce, because you don't know when it's something new. And so they put it in a special fund called the Wayfair tax. Over a 3-year period, that it has accumulated just short of $750 million. That would replace the grocery tax almost threefold. So you can't tell me that it's necessary to keep that grocery tax, much less increase it. So you got 1.1 billion that's missing. You got $750 million extra laying in an account that's not doing anything. And then you've got the part that they were paying the health districts that the state is keeping. I'm not surprised that all of a sudden we've got $2.25 billion excess in revenue. Where did it come from? Now, is that just tax dollars that's mounted up? Because if it is, then you've been overtaxing me tremendously. If it's not, where'd it come from? Somebody do the math for me and tell me where it came from. I can show you where it came from, and nobody's bothered to dispute that. So his big tax break is a major tax shift that's going to give you a tax shaft. And at the end of the day, they've not talked about cutting spending anywhere. So therefore, you will not see your taxes go down. You may see it go down on one line, but it'll go right back on another line. So, and you can't use the $2.25 billion to supplement that, because it's going to run out. You got to have a constant flow of tax dollars to meet your budget. And if you do not cut spending, you can't cut taxes. It's simple math. You don't even have to use the alphabet in it. It's pretty simple. So
was it a combination of all those things that ultimately led you to?
That made me get in it, and as county commissioner, being told that we have to close the church, which on his latest commercial he said, and we closed no businesses, and we had no lockdowns, and we had no mask mandates. Well, when he left the state the first time, the lieutenant governor, if I recall, passed an executive order ending mask mandates. Now, you couldn't do that if you didn't have one, and when he came back, he rescinded it And if there wasn't one anyway, you wouldn't have had to rescind it, would you? So you've been told a little lie by lying little. And then when he came back the second time, and she had passed the executive order, he came back, he rescinded that. We knew he would. He rescinded the first one. We knew he was going to do the second one. It was political. Difference between me and the LT is I would have ended the emergency twice, because that would have shut the federal money off. My only guess as to why she didn't would be the backlash and fire that would come from it. But if you're going to take a stand and step out, take a stand and step out and take the heat with it. If you're not willing to take the heat, then you need to go home, because heat comes with the job making the right decision. So when he came back the second time, he rescinded that executive order, and then he did something very unique. He went in and did a press release in front of a camera, and this is almost an exact quote. He came on the camera and he said, "She did not have the authority to do what she did. Nobody gave her permission. She only made a big mess for me to clean up." Now, one of three things happened when he did that. One, he either willfully and intentionally lied to every taxpayer in the state of Idaho with the intentions to mislead and discredit you and his lieutenant governor, or he's ignorant of Article 12 that says if the governor leaves the state, the lieutenant governor is governor. No way to dissect that and interpret it as anything else. It's very plain. So as soon as his feet cross that state line, the lieutenant governor becomes governor automatic. It's instantaneous. No legislative action, no swearing her in. It is automatic. As soon as he steps back, it goes back the other way. So he either willfully and intentionally lied to you, or he's ignorant of the laws governing his office, or all the above. And I think that the people of Idaho need a governor that will not lie to them under any circumstance. Sometimes the truth is painful. I'd rather have a governor that's going to tell me the truth every time, even if it's painful. I want to know the truth. Don't blow smoke at me. Don't sweet talk me. Tell me exactly what's going on. And I think the people of Idaho are smart enough to see that. He seems to forget that he had told everybody that's non-essential to go home. He seems to have forgot that he told the churches that they had to close down. I'm a pastor. I distinctly remember that. I'm a county commissioner. I distinctly remember the non-essential part. I don't think there's anybody in Idaho that's non-essential. I think every person in Idaho is essential. And so I find him very offensive. He's an overreacher. CARES Act didn't go through appropriations. Why? Has he become a dictator and doesn't have to answer to the other two branches of government? He seems to have lost track of what a governor's job is. And for me, that was enough to get me in the fight. The Lord said, go to Nineveh or wait for the fish. And so I knew the story, and I wasn't going to wait for the fish. So here I am.
Okay. I guess I want to get into the policy issues, and you've covered some of those, like grocery tax already. What do you say to those who, you came in a little bit after some of the other challengers to Governor Little, who also want to defeat him? Did you look at the other challengers as well and go, yeah, they can't do it, or were they not any part of the equation? It was just something you felt God was asking you.
It wasn't part of the equation for me. I had the conversation with God several times. Lord, you got my resume. You know me. Are you sure about this? Like, I'm trying to help him think. How foolish is that? But no, it became very evident that this is the course he wanted me to take. And now that I'm in it till I finish the race, or either I'll fall over dead in the process.
Okay.
But for me, there's no turning back, there's no stopping. He gave me a job to go do, and I'm gonna go do it. Not a career move, I'm 67 years old, full-time pastor, full-time commissioner. I don't need a career, but somebody's got to get this job done.
Okay. What are, let's shift here a little bit now to some of the issues, and you've talked about some of them. So what are some of the other, let's say, 2 other issues that on the campaign trail you've been talking to Idahoans? You become governor, what is some of the first big priorities for you as governor?
As soon as my hand comes down from being sworn in, your grocery tax will disappear. It will end that day.
So would you do that through executive order?
Executive order, right as soon as they swear me in, it'll be laying there, wrote out, ready to sign, and it'll be done. And for the next 4 years, you will not pay a penny in grocery tax in the state of Idaho. That I promise you. The other big issue that I will push forward, and it'll start on day 1, will be taking the public lands back. All the language, written documents are prepared, they're in order, and were in order 3.5 years ago when Brad Little ran for office. He said he would sign it if it was ready to go. It was ready to go, and he backed out. Why? And he even said he would do that in his campaign. He did not do that. He backed out. Why? Federal dollars. If you want a state that's controlled by federal dollars, then vote one of the other people in, because that's what's going to happen. I'm not for sale. I can't be threatened. What are you going to do, send me to heaven early? I don't see the downside on that one. So I will take the lands back within the borders of Idaho. Idaho is a sovereign state, and as such, we are a sovereign people in a sovereign state, and that land lies within our borders and should be under our management. Just that one thing will change Idaho forever. It'll no longer be under the heavy thumb of the federal government. It's got the potential to be the richest state in the union. We've got cobalt, we've got uranium, we got gold, silver, copper, we've got gas, we got oil, we got 23 different gems. We've got farming, we've got cattle. We can be a self-supportive state and produce world market product. But you need a governor that will get out from under the federal thumb and federal regulation and take the land back within its borders and make the state of Idaho great. We can do that. We can restore our American Republic. But it's got to start one state at a time. And if we don't fix it at the state level, we're going to lose Idaho this year. We'll lose it if we don't win this election.
Okay. Let's talk about a couple other big issues here in Idaho. One of them being the Second Amendment. Every candidate, I think, on the campaign trail is telling you that there's pro-Second Amendment. What does that mean specifically to you? And then can you touch on some key issues like red flag laws or universal background checks and where you stand on those issues specifically?
ATF has a background check that is more than excellent. It's connected to the FBI. I don't know who you would go to beyond that to do a background check. So ATF does an excellent job. It's a system that's been working for ever since I was a kid. And,
what would you say? Well, I'm gonna touch on that just briefly. A lot of John Lott is a professor, and he does a lot of investigating on the background check system, and he has come out and said that I think 93% of the hits that come in the background check system are false positives, meaning they're actually people who should not be getting hit on that background check system. So some people may say, hey, look, background check system is not working very well because all these innocent people keep getting caught up in this net with the criminals, because you may have somebody that has the same last name as you and same name, and it just kind of
and it triggers a second look. And from a background check standpoint, a second look is not a bad thing. Now, it may be inconvenient because you got to wait now. You may have to wait another week or two to get cleared. But the wrong guy doesn't end up with the new gun, does he? And so it's a system that does work. As far as the Second Amendment, if you want the First Amendment and the rest of them, you can't defend them without the Second. As simple as that. No Second Amendment, you can't defend the First Amendment.
Okay. And then what about red flag laws? That's a hot topic typically in the Second Amendment community. So.
Yeah, red flag laws, it depends on who's calling what a red flag. Right now, there's a certain group that wants to, if you're a veteran, combat veteran, they want to call you a red flag. If you're retired police, they want to call you a red flag. If you're a conservative Christian, that's a red flag. So I'm not a big red flag fan. Let the ATF do their job and leave them alone.
Okay. And for those watching, if you hear some pings in the background, there's a gun range inside the building that we're in, so that's what that noise is. But okay, and let's talk about abortion. Abortion is also another big topic here in the state of Idaho, and a lot of people will likely want to know where you stand on the issue of abortion.
Well, like I said, I'm a pastor 21 years, so that probably answers the question, but I'll answer it for them. You've got a life beat law. You've got some other laws in different states for different determining factors. But Bible plainly says he knew you before you were in your mother's womb. For me, that anchors it right there. Life began for you before you ever showed up at your mom. He knew you before then. So at conception, you are in fact a living being. And law contradicts itself, because if a person was to mug a lady that was with child and that child died through a beating or whatever reason, he'd be charged with murder. So it's okay for one person to kill them because they got a doctor plaque, but it's not okay for the other person to kill them. We need to decide what is life and what is not life. And for me, it's very simple. It began at conception. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. What about a victim of a rape? If I was a product of a mother that was raped, you tell me at what point in time it's okay to kill me. Nobody wants to address that question, do they? And there's instances where a doctor has to get with the parent and make a decision. If we go through with the birth, the mother will not survive. So we have to make a choice between the baby or the mother. More times than not, the mothers will say save the child. That's a mother thing. But it's a decision that has to be made. That's where it becomes a tough call, and it should be the call of the family based on the advice of the doctor. But other than that, I think it's 100% totally wrong.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about education. And there's a couple key topics here. One is education funding, which is always a huge debate in the legislature. You've got a group right now, Reclaim Idaho, pushing an education funding ballot initiative. So what are your thoughts on education funding? And then what about the topic of CRT? And that has also been a very big topic in the state this last couple of years in particular, and really across the country.
Yeah. I think the funding for the education is there. The school boards are not giving it to the teachers. My daughter-in-law is a high school math teacher, so I know what she gets paid, and I know what kind of money comes in to our school district up there. And they passed a big levy here 2 years ago, and just insane amount of money. And I told her, I said, okay, based on the amount of money that they got in that levy, in addition to what they already have. I went on the Secretary of State's website and saw how many teachers are employed in that school district. And let's say they average all the same pay, which they don't, but let's say they all get the same pay. And they said that 60% of that was going to go to the teachers and 40% was going to go to the kids for extracurricular activities, sports, and such. Just the part that was going to the teachers, if it's averaged evenly across the teachers and the school board's not skimming any off of there, you should be getting about a $49,500 raise this year. Another $49,500 per teacher. Did that happen? Not even remotely close. Less than 10% of that went to the teachers. So the money's there. The school boards need to be audited and looked at. Where's the money going? What are they spending on? Because they're not giving it to the teachers. The teachers are underfunded. The school districts aren't. The teachers are. And as far as what they're teaching, I had a group of young people in my church one Sunday, and probably 20 or 30 high schoolers, first year college kids. And I said, I'm going to give you an example of how bad our school system is failing our kids. We're going to do an American history test right here this morning. And parents, I know you know the answer, so don't answer it. Let the kids answer it. Of all you kids between 13 and 21, raise your hand if you know the answer. Who was Benjamin Rush? Nobody. Who was Thomas Jefferson? I said, let's make it easy. How about Paul Revere? Nobody knew. They couldn't answer. They could not tell you any of the people that signed the Declaration of Independence. Where's our history class? What are they teaching them? So for me, that was a problem, because that was something we had in junior high and high school. Those were mandatory classes, and they taught the whole history of the nation, not just parts of it. And so for me, I've seen a change over the time that my kids went through and graduated and went through college, and now my grandkids are going through high school. I've only got 2 left in there out of 5, and they're not being taught the very basic essentials that they need. And so for me, that's a problem, especially when the school districts are getting the funding, but the teachers are not. For me, that's an issue. CRT. If I wanted to start a racial war, I would think that CRT would be the beginning of a master plan. Because anytime you take and say that this race is critical or this race is better than this race, you immediately begin to start division, and you begin a hatred between them. If they pass a law that says you have to like me, human nature is going to tell you, well, I don't have to like anybody I don't want to. And so the rebellion in you will begin to start. And if you're of a different country, different culture, different color or race, and one's telling you you have to like this other one, that starts hate right there. That fuels it. Instead of just get back to the basics of the Bible of loving your neighbor as you do yourself, regardless of what color he is. He can be a good neighbor even if he doesn't speak the language. I grew up in Houston. I know what racism is. I know what it smells like. I know what it looks like. And you cannot pass a law that says Jim has to love Henry. That's something you should automatically do anyway. And so the CRT is a major problem. And they say it's not in some of our schools, but it is. Now, the state may not endorse it, and they may say we're not providing stuff for that, but some of your school districts are, and some of your school teachers are pushing it in their classroom. How do you fix that problem? Start at the top and start working down. And it'll be a tough process, but you're going to need a good superintendent of schools. And so that's the first step right there. And so you go from there and you start nicking away at it till you get the problem fixed. But it's a tough problem. It is an issue.
Okay. Before we get into kind of the final segment here, is there any other issues that have not been brought up yet that you're like, hey, this is something else I'm campaigning on, and you felt was important to bring up today?
The present climate on our federal level, our state level, and local level, people are frustrated. They're tired of being told they can't do this or they can't do that. They have to wear a mask. They shouldn't wear a mask. They have to get a vaccination. They shouldn't get a vaccination. Vaccines and masks are your choice. Your choice, not the government's or anybody else's. As far as the vaccination, you work that out between you and your doctor and the Lord. I'd pray about it before I talk to my doctor about it. That's just me. But it's your choice, not anybody else's. And me personally, I don't think anybody in Idaho's ugly enough to need a mask. I come close, but the rest of them look pretty nice. And then you've got a water issue on, not as big an issue up north where I'm at. North Idaho, we got lots of water. We have dry years like everybody else's. But down south, it is a major issue. And if I take the federal lands back, well, they're not federal lands, they're within the state of Idaho. We'll take the public lands back. I'll show you how quickly and easily those problems are solved.
Okay. So before you do your closing statement, and we've kind of touched on this already, you know, all of the challengers want to defeat Brad Little.
Right.
All of the supporters of those challengers want to defeat Brad Little. So, you know, right now on the ballot, there's going to be, I think, 7 challengers in total, and then 8 total people with Governor Little on there. What do you say to those who say, look, everybody should have coalesced around, let's say, the lieutenant governor? She had the best chance, and if everybody had dropped out, including yourself, then maybe she could have beat him. What do you say to that criticism?
Maybe, but I doubt it, being the climate now. But what splits a vote is when people vote for the wrong person. And so look at the candidates, look at their qualifications, look at their heart, look at their knowledge, look at their record. You've got one that's in there that has no problem going in front of a camera and lying to you. He talks tax breaks that are always a tax shift. You've got the other one who's a lieutenant governor, sweetheart of a gal. I know her parents, love them all. But she is having problem balancing her budget, which ironically is the smallest budget in the state of Idaho. And 20% shortfall, if you have that on a state level, you're going to shut the state down for 2 to 3 months? You can't do that. So not only do I have experience in balancing a large budget, we were able to cut spending and keep the inflation down, work around the inflation, and kept taxes flat. So a budget is something I'm very familiar with, very experienced at. The governor is the last one that has say-so on the budget. So that is a major deal. And if you don't cut spending, nobody's ever going to see a tax break. It's simple as that. Simple math, no alphabet in it. Doesn't get more difficult because the number's bigger. The math is the same. You've got another one that's 30 years old, 31 years old. Super nice guy, I like him. We help each other on the trail. brings nothing to the table other than he's a really good speaker. He has a good education in finance. I don't know that he has any experience in finance, but he does have a degree in finance. But experience, he brings nothing to the table. And we are not in a position in this state where we need somebody that's going to go in there and learn how to do a good job. I think he could probably do a good job, but we don't have time for a learning process. We need somebody that'll get that job done. The others, I don't know what they bring. I haven't followed those. I've only got to work with those three.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, in closing, we allow all the candidates to kind of address the crowd, the camera, and do your campaign pitch, and you can plug your website and anything else you want to plug.
Well, I'm Steve Bradshaw. I'm running for governor of Idaho. Have a proven track record. Unlike Brad Little, I'm not standing on what I say my record is. I'm standing on what my record actually is. Full-time pastor, 2-term county commissioner. You can look at my website, look at my platform, the things that I have on there. Not only am I saying will get done, they will get done. And SteveBradshawForGovernor.com. And feel free to click that donate button, because I need your help and I need your vote. Pray about it to God, find out who the candidate is that he points out to you, and then do what's right in God's eyes and not ours.
All right, Mr. Bradshaw, we appreciate you taking time to sit down with us today.
All right, thank you for having me.
Yep, have a good day.